Hello, hello. Welcome to Confidence with Coffee. My name is Heather Jean, and I am so pleased that you are here. So, this is a segment on our YouTube channel where we spend some time reflecting on our latest podcast episode. And this week with Zaina Brahim, or Zaina Bee, as she's known on socials, we are talking about self care. So, if you aren't familiar with the Confidence Through Cabaret podcast yet, then search Confidence Through Cabaret wherever you get your podcasts and you will find it. If you are on podcast usually, then you might not be aware that we also broadcast our podcasts on a Vodcast on our YouTube channel. So if you go after this segment onto the Vodcasts playlist, you will find the conversation on video. While we're at this on the subject, Confidence Through Cabaret, wherever you get your social media, we have a very supportive community on Facebook. Of course, we have content on the Facebook page, as well as on our Confidence Through Cabaret Instagram. And confidencethroughcabaret.com is where our masterclasses live. So that is personal life, work life, and stage life masterclasses for raising and growing unshakable confidence to gain the results that you desire and deserve. So as I say, we're talking about self-care, and everybody's talking about self-care now, right? And here we are, we're at the end of the holidays now, and for some of us, there's a kind of a dip in our confidence. So the days tend to be, depending on which hemisphere you live in, but for most of us that would be watching, our days tend to be darker. So the daylight is shorter. So we have less physical daylight. So do make sure you're getting enough daylight. But we also have, it's a long month. So for some of us, a pay takes a little while to come through, and, we have an extra few days to go before our paychecks, if that's your situation. But also there's for some of us, a coming down after Christmas. Either there were so many wonderful experiences that, you went skating, or you played in the snow, or I don't know, I'm from Canada, that's kind of things that we would do, but, or you went for lots of walks while people were on holidays, or, you did things that are out of the ordinary that are very joyful. Or maybe you expected to, and then you didn't. It was never as grand as it was in your mind, or as you wanted it to be in your mind. I know when I was growing up, and still to this day, my father has quite a lot of depression and anxiety around Christmas, because his expectations he never can live up to them. And Zaina and I talk about this, kind of what are the standards and then your standards. And I use this a lot in my corporate training around, performance management, when people are talking about, producing results, or the level, the quality of results, as well as the quantity of results. And I'll say, is that your standard or the standard? Like, let's be clear here. So the standard is that you show up and that you did your best. Your standard might have been miles above that. And so for some of us, especially if you are a New Year's resolution person and you had big expectations for the new year, resolutions, did you know, are most often, most of us have lost or let down our resolutions by the 11th of January. So that's not a really good message, is it, to start the year and go, well, I've already failed. I mean, of course you haven't. If you set resolutions and they haven't come true, that doesn't mean that it's done. I used to have this mindset around healthy eating. So if I'd eaten a bunch of junk at lunchtime, then I'd say, oh, well, the day's ruined now. And then I would eat a bunch more junk in the evening, instead of going, oh, well, okay, but I can start again from now for the rest of the day. So again, check in with your standards and your expectations, and can it shift a little bit in there? So talking about self-care, as everyone else is not about bubble baths and hot chocolate, or whatever your self-care is. And it's not about numbing the feelings. Real self-care is about allowing yourself to cry. We talk a lot about that in the podcast. It's about allowing yourself to relax. It's about allowing yourself to feel the feelings and release them. And I can tell you, after decades of being frozen in emotion and really stuffing it all down and going, I'm fine, and pushing it all down. If you do that, it can lead to very serious physical illnesses. Um, and I'm not a doctor. I don't know, but I know that there are certainly links to most illnesses, and certainly a contributor at the very least of some of my illnesses in the past. It can also cause us, emotionally to create anxieties or depression or all kinds of different mental health ailments, and those are very, very serious. So being able to recognize and read for ourselves what we need, and by the way, you do not need permission from somebody else. So you don't need somebody else, as we talk about on the podcast episode with Zaina. You don't need permission to make a salad because your partner doesn't enjoy salad. And yet sometimes we seek permission from others. So self-care is about knowing what we need, and it's about emotional discharge if we need it. It's about relaxation if we need it. It's about movement if we need it, stretching or moving or dancing or whatever it is. But really being able to take that time for yourself to connect your body and your mind and read what you need. And some of us, it's journaling. And for some of us, it's gratitude practice. And for some of us, it's meditation. And for some of us, it's a form of all of those things by, going out and walking the dog or whatever that is that helps you to be connected. What I did as an extrovert, because I draw energy from others and that gives me more energy to give out and connect even more, I never ran out of energy, but I also never read what I needed until I hit the point when I could stuff nothing else in. I was full and frozen. And I think, there are healthy ways of numbing and there are unhealthy ways of numbing. But let's try and avoid the numbing altogether by saying, what is it that I need? And how do I release whatever it is I need to release? And Zane and I talk about, a rage room, and sports or, throwing things or whatever it is in a controlled environment. So, really just kind of helping us to release. We also talked about, if for some of us, and I have been in this space where we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. We can't even recognize that we're in a tunnel because we're in this fight, flight, or freeze in our brainstem, and we're not. There's no way we can see the choices, and we're just here, and our peripheral vision is literally shut down into to fight, flight, or freeze. What am I going to choose? And it is a survival technique, so it is an important part of us. But given that tigers are not going to eat most of us most of the time, then it's really being able to sift information coming in through our middle brain, our limbic system, and being able to move it up into possibilities and into a nutritive state by opening our mind. And that literally opens our possibilities. And I kept hearing this. I worked with corporate clients and talked about nutritive state and all of this. I did all the psychology background and great, but I didn't live it. And so in this podcast episode, we talk about a really important question, which is, like, what if I'm not a piece of shit? Or what if I'm not a bad person? Or what if I'm not, like, just the possibility? What if I'm actually a little bit better than I think? Like, just opening the door with a crack. And when we have cracks, we can let the light in. And when we let the light in, that's when we start gradually, slowly being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we have to be patient and gentle with ourselves to do this work. If this is something that's resonating with you and you want to talk about it further, you can send me a DM as Heather Jean, or you can contact Confidence Through Cabaret on any of the socials, or subscribe comment below here and let's talk about it. But I'd love to jump on a call with you and talk you through that in more specific terms than we have time for here. I wanted to come back to a clip that Zaina is talking about being worthy. So let's have a listen.
Seeing myself as worthy of the time, the attention, the money, the rest, all of these things that when we don't love ourselves are missing. These are the ways that I used to abuse myself when I was not in a good place. Um, I didn't take time for myself. I didn't do self care. Self care? Are you kidding me? Um, I didn't have the respect for myself to say no to things, and so it led to breakdowns, emotional breakdowns, physical breakdowns, overworking my body until it just said no more.
Yeah. So checking in with ourselves and really learning to know that we are worthy of time for ourselves, that we are worthy for attention on ourselves for whatever it is that we need. I like to go to my bed when I need time. I like to sit and journal or reflect or cry or whatever it is. And I can tell you now, I did not cry until 2019 for almost my entire adult life. Now I cry all the time. I tear up all the time, but I like to have that space and that attention for myself and that rest in some cases. But taking the time to remind yourself that you are worthy and that you do not require permission to have that self care. It is so, so important for you. Um, and I think Zaina and I kind of came up with a new concept by accident because what she was describing sounded to me like Mary Poppins with if you've got to do things, and I know as a very busy mother, um, my children are grown up now, but when they were younger, and I was running two businesses at the time, and I had 22 trainers on my books, and I had corporate clients, and I was traveling all over the world, and how I fit it all in, I will never understand now looking back. But what I did is make the things that we did around the house fun. And that's Zaina was describing this about, doing something like if you need to do stretching and release, but you also want to watch a movie and hide, then you can do both at the same time. Put on a movie and put out your yoga mat and or sit on a piece of carpet or something and do a little bit of stretching and moving in your body. And what is fantastic about that is that reminded me of Mary Poppins and Spoonful of Sugar. And it's that, put on some great music if you got to fold laundry and have a little dance around your kitchen while you're folding. I mean, nothing fun about folding towels unless you're going to get involved in something groovy. So enjoy the tasks that you need to do because, and I say this in the podcast in much more detail, you can have a good time or you can do hard time. And remembering to play and find joy in a moment is so important. I Gratitude practice is a huge part of that. It's a huge part of feeling hopeful. It's a huge part of giving yourself permission because, and it's a really big part of overcoming things like perfectionism, because we're grateful and aware of what we have in the moment, and we're not constantly seeking for what else and what else and what else. It's again my standard versus the standard. So if any of this is resonating with you and you want to talk it over further, please get in touch with me. Welcome to send me. Most of the time I'm hanging out on Facebook. You can DM me as Heather Jean, um, or you can jump into the Confidence Through Cabaret community on Facebook, and we would be glad to support you through there, or jump onto a call with you and talk over your individual situations and circumstances, because I understand the desire for self-care. If you're a parent, it often feels like, especially a mother, not only, but especially a mother, it often feels like, oh yeah, but that's too selfish. I couldn't possibly take that time away from my children. I want to be with them. But I can tell you with grown-up children that unless you model that way, then how will your children learn it? Because they don't learn it by you telling them that they should do self-care when you don't. And so I would say, check in with your practices. Are they practices that you would teach your loved ones? Are they practices that you would want your children to adopt? And if they're not, then you need to be practicing properly for yourself. And self-care is a great way to start. I am Heather Jean. This is Confidence Through Cabaret. And I would like to remind you, because we are Confidence Through Cabaret on all the socials, except for Twitter, where we are at YB, YW, YS, and Clubhouse, where I'm Heather, at Heather, YB, YW, YS. And that is to remind you that it is your body and it is your world and it is your stage. Take up space and own it. Bye for now.